gave him basic directions. I had my brother's number. I said, call him if you need anything major.
Are you headed down there after this?
I was going to. I'm going to leave about 4:45.
Okay. Good.
I just said not drive through the roads down there.
Mike,
at night.
who do we have? Who is that back there on the?
Crossings. Kind of gets you a little nervous.
I bet.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals here in Zionsville. We will begin by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, please. You'll stand. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Dale, if you would take the attendance, please.
Josh Fedor,
Present.
Jim Hurst,
Present.
Josh Martin,
Present.
Amanda Miller,
Present.
Kathy Postlethwaite,
Present.
all present.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. The next item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from the July 8th meeting. I hope that everyone has had a chance to look at the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? Is there a motion to accept them as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Fedor. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimously passed. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is a continuance, docket number 2025-18-DSV, Development Standards Variance. Kennedy, Mr. Smith, if you would like to, is there anything we need to know about that?
This is still likely going to require variances. Monday, the petitioner had his alleyway vacation approved through town council, which gives him access to an extra few hundred feet, which will impact his lot coverage request and his setback request. The first continuance was an automatic continuance. The second continuance was needed because the town council, rather than approving it on the first reading, they waited and approved it on the second reading. Because of that delay, the owner didn't have time to redesign his project based off the new layout of the parcel. So that's what we're requesting. Since this is the second request, it's not automatic, so it will require y'all to approve it. But staff supports the request. We want to give the owner adequate time to redesign his project. Hopefully, he can eliminate at least one of his variance requests. It's likely he'll still require one for lot coverage, but he's working and taking steps to improve his project. So,
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith? Any discussion about this continuance? Do we have a motion to continue?
I'll move them.
Thank
Continue
you.
it. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Perhaps we do a roll call vote, Mr. Dale?
Sure, and this is for a continuance to the next month's,
To the next month, September's meeting.
okay, and that would,
And this is docket number 2025-18-DSV, and the motion is to continue it to the September meeting.
okay. Kathy Postlethwaite,
Aye.
Amanda Miller,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Josh Fedor.
Aye.
That will be continued, and we'll take it up at our meeting in September. The next item on the agenda is docket number 2025-21-SE, Vanderbilt Commercial, and this is a withdrawal. Mr. Smith, comments about that?
Yeah, so this is continued, this was continued at the previous meeting. Y'all had requested that staff try to work with the petitioner, finalize some of their plans to where y'all had a better idea conceptually about what y'all were approving. Through that review process, through that, all that work we did, it was discovered that Boone County had a legal drain that wasn't shown. And that legal drain went through where they were proposing their building, their parking, well, actually it went through both building locations as well as their parking lot, which created challenges for this buyer, the petitioner. Because of those challenges, they decided not to move forward with purchasing the property, and as a consequence, they're withdrawing their request. So,
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there any questions for Mr. Smith? Is there a motion for withdrawal? Someone would like to make a motion to withdraw?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fedor. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any further discussion? Mr. Dale, if you would do the roll call.
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Amanda Miller,
Aye.
Kathy Postlethwaite.
Aye. The petition will be withdrawn. Okay, the next item on our agenda is, there are three docket numbers, 2025-22-UV, 2025-23-UV, and 2025-24-DSV. Tim Wilson, is Mr. Wilson present? Okay, we'll start with the staff report, and you'll have your opportunity to come to the podium and give your name and address the board in a moment. Okay, staff report, Mr. Smith.
yes, ma'am. So I want to be respectful. I see there's probably a lot of people here that want to speak, so I'm going to let the staff report speak for itself, but I do want to discuss the findings that are required for both use variances and the development standards variances. Specifically, just so it's on the record, the areas where staff disagrees with the petitioner. Generally speaking, the first two requests, a use variance for an outdoor facility, an outdoor recreation facility, and the second request, which is a use variance for retail operations. There are criteria as far as the use variance that you have to meet. You have to meet all 5 criteria, otherwise staff cannot support the request. Again, I'm not going to go through all 5, but I do want to touch on the ones where staff does not align with the petitioner. These are the reasons staff does not support those requests. The first request, as I mentioned, is a use variance to allow an outdoor recreation facility. To provide some clarification on that, essentially the petitioner was operating fundraisers, right? And our use table doesn't always exactly have a spot that you can slot something into, right? So a fundraiser, there's not a use titled fundraiser in our table of uses. So we took what he was doing, and as a staff, we determined that he best fit with the category of outdoor recreation facility. And Mr. Wilson is here, so I'll let him speak to the outdoor events that he's hosting. He can provide more details as it relates to that. But specifically where we disagree, right, where staff does not align. Number 2, the use or value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance request will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Staff disagrees. This site, with the exceptions of Albert's Farmers Market, which is right across the street, is next to several already developed single-family residential homes. Although in their findings, the petitioner says the proposal will not create excessive noise or traffic, this is really where staff disagrees. The proposed use will cause him to have to improve the site. For example, buffer yards, parking, landscaping. All of these improvements are intended to accommodate noise and traffic. And if the use is approved this new development would impact the rural and agricultural character of this area. Those reasons, that's why we disagree as far as number 2. I believe it's number 4. Strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship in the use of the property. Again, we disagree on this criteria. Unnecessary hardship exists when all relevant factors taken together indicate land involved cannot yield a reasonable return because of a unique circumstance. Unnecessary hardship justifying a grant cannot be based on a self-created condition. Mere showing of economic loss is not sufficient. And then here's our justification. In this case, staff believes the property is already producing a reasonable return. It's a 20-acre farm. Additionally, given its size and R2 zoning, nothing in the zoning ordinance stops the property from being developed with single-family homes. Although the zoning ordinance does limit permitted uses, that's not unique. All properties in Zionsville are limited to uses allowed in their zoning classification. If the requested variances are denied, staff believes the property can still produce a reasonable return for the owner. Those are the 2 as it relates to the request for outdoor recreation, specifically criteria number 2 and criteria number 4, where staff does not align with the petitioner. The other 3 criteria, number 1, number 3, and number 5, staff agrees, and we align with the petitioner on those. Again, I'm going to let y'all read into the staff report, let that speak for itself, but I wanted to read where we disagree for the record. Again, item number 2, the use variance to allow retail in R2. Again, we agree on criteria number 1. It's criteria number 2 where we start disagreeing. Again, granting this additional use and improving the site to meet the minimum development standards for general retail would increase noise and traffic. These improvements would take away from the characteristics of this site. For these reasons, staff believes granting this request would adversely impact the use and value of these adjoining residential properties. Criteria number 3, we disagree on this. The petitioner presents the property's size, layout, and existing infrastructure as the conditions creating the need for this request. With the information submitted, we disagreed with this conclusion. The need for general retail use arises from their desire, from the petitioner's desire, to sell products that are not grown and or produced on site. For example, hats and t-shirts, things of that nature. Number 4, again, we disagree. Staff disagrees. Unnecessary hardship, again, is defined when all relevant factors taken together indicate land involved cannot yield a reasonable return because of a unique circumstance. Unnecessary hardship justifying granting a variance cannot be based upon self-created conditions. Mere showing of economic loss is not sufficient. In this case, the property is already producing a reasonable return, again, operating as a 20-acre farm. Given its size and R2 zoning, nothing is prohibiting this property from being developed with single-family homes. Again, this is a similar justification to our previous comment. I'm going to save the time and not read through it. But for those reasons, we believe the property would still produce a reasonable return to the owner, and for that reason, we disagree. Criteria number 5, we believe has been met. So to recap on the use variance for retail, criteria number 2, criteria number 3, and criteria number 4, we disagree. We align with the petitioner on number 1 and on number 5. Skipping to the development standards for signs, there's 3 criteria. If you are inclined to approve either one of the use variances, staff is supporting giving the petitioner the ability to have signs on his property, right? So if you're inclined to approve any of the use variances, staff believes the petitioner should have the ability to advertise his business. To go through the first 3 criteria for development standards, which are different criteria than use variances. Criteria number 1, the grant will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Staff agrees. The signs will be located outside of right-of-way. They do not have lights, so there's not any adverse light impacts. As of this writing, we've not received any complaints from the public regarding the signs. So barring objections being raised during this public hearing, we believe this criteria has been met. Number 2, the use or value of the area adjacent to the property in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Again, we agree with the petitioner. The signs are located on the walls of the existing structures. They do not obstruct views. They do not create noise or otherwise negatively impact neighboring properties. We also agree with the petitioner that the signs contribute to revitalizing the property. For those reasons, we agree that this criteria has been met. Item number 3, strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship in the use of the property. Again, we agree with the petitioner. The zoning ordinance allows the petitioner to sell cattle and freezer beef on site, but does not consider the signs needed to sell those. Additionally, R2 zoning prohibits the use of wall signs altogether. If the BZA decides to grant the use of outdoor recreation or retail, along with the permitted sale of freezer beef, staff believes the owner should be allowed to advertise using wall signs placed on the existing barn. Therefore, we believe this criteria has been met. And if you look at Exhibit 6, you'll see where there are copies provided of the signs that are on the property. So to recap, staff does not support the use variance number 1, which is for outdoor recreation facility, because of the previous reasons listed. Again, staff number 2, staff does not support the use variance for general retail for the reasons that we previously mentioned. However, if you're inclined to grant those requests, we are favorable and we do support allowing the signs, the development standard variance for the signs. I know I went through just a couple, 3 or 4 pages of the staff report. If you have specific questions about anything in the report that you've read, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to turn my time over and give it back to you so other people can speak.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there any questions for staff regarding the report?
Yeah, Jonathan, you had mentioned fundraisers is the requirement for the variance for the outdoor recreation facility. Are these private fundraisers, or is this something that the property owner is being paid to host, sort of thing?
Tim will probably be better situated to answer that question.
Fair
I
enough.
believe they were fundraisers for Purdue, I believe was one of them, and I think he hosts cooking classes or cooking events.
Okay, so it's beyond fundraising. There are other events
I
that,
believe so.
okay, but we can let the petitioner
Yeah.
explain more. I just wanted to clarify what you knew. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, Mr. Wilson, if you want to come forward, please, to the podium and give your name and address.
Okay, good evening. My name is Tim Wilson. I own Willie's Wagyu, a 20-acre working farm at 9015 East 200 South. I'm here to respectfully request your approval of 2 variances and 1 development standard variance to allow our operation to continue doing what this land has always done, which is serve the community through agriculture, education, and food. The land has a long history, and while zoning has a long agricultural history, and while zoning designations have changed over the years, the land use has remained consistent. Our farm specializes in Wagyu cattle raised using advanced genetics with the University of Purdue. Embryos are implanted and managed on-site using full-blood Wagyu lines traceable to Japan. The property's core use remains agricultural, and under Section 194.019 of the Zionsville Ordinance, we believe this qualifies as a grandfathered use. It's consistent with the town's stated intent to preserve pre-existing, long-standing agricultural operations. Let's talk about the outdoor events. We are being shoved into a category for our fundraisers. We are not seeking permission to host commercial entertainment. The events we host are rooted in education, animal science, and community outreach. Since 2022, I've partnered with Purdue, the Bovine Education Unit, and specifically Dr. Funnell to support student learning and veterinary research on my properties. We've held small, well-managed fundraisers that benefit both the Purdue Bovine Unit and Dr. Funnell's discretionary fund, which I have personally funded to start. With all these proceeds directly supporting agricultural education and advancement. The event, we had one event. The event we held was a limited scale fundraiser, a cooking class for Purdue, where all of the proceeds were donated to Purdue. The focus and the alignment of the mission of sustainability and responsible agriculture, these events aren't entertainment, they're engagement. They give the public an authentic connection to the food production and the science behind it. Now let's talk about the retail use, the farm-based that we feel we align with nearby organizations and operations. We understand the concerns about retail in an R2 zoning category. But what we are requesting is simply equal treatment and rights already afforded to other working farms in our community, including Wonder Tree, Watches Farm, Albert's Farmer Market, and even the local You Pick Flowers. Like those operations, we offer farm-based products that are part of our agricultural process, including beef and value-added items such as tallow soaps and creams and others. These offerings represent sustainable whole animal harvesting and reflect our commitment to transparency and stewardship. This is not commercial retail in the traditional sense. I own several commercial real estate properties. I could go put a sleeve in any of those. This is just something to help encourage and support the community. On the signage, our signage request is simple and it's safety driven. Wall-mounted, non-illuminated signs on existing structures, a small entry sign at our gate, no electronic displays, no obstructions or disruptions to neighbors. These signs are essential, not just for the visitors, but also for the safety and response to the increased traffic volumes resulting from nearby housing developments and ongoing detours. Clearly marked entrances reduce confusion, prevent unintended turnarounds in neighboring driveways, and ensure the emergency vehicles can have access to the property without any delay. Next, I believe we fully align with the comprehensive plan. Zionsville's comprehensive plan ensures agricultural preservation and neighborhood-serving mixed-use operation. Our farm is a living expression of those goals. We preserve open space. We support our local food and whole animal sustainability. We offer educational outreach, not traffic or noise, and we align perfectly with the vision for the County Road 200 agricultural corridor, which Save Rural Zionsville has worked hard to protect and preserve. However, it's important to recognize that in the current comprehensive plan, reducing agricultural land in Zionsville from 52% to 25%, that's a significant shift. And without sustainable, economically viable ways to farm, to adapt, and remain active, this reduction in agricultural land risks the elimination of the very character the plan claims to preserve. Without thoughtful integration and flexibility for working farms, again, we're going from 52 to 25%. If we are not in your thoughts as a working farm, this approach doesn't work. We believe our model offers a path forward that keeps agriculture alive in a way that is community-centered, sustainable, and aligns with Zionsville's long-term vision. In closing, I purchased this land to be close to my grandson. For me, this is more than a business. It's a home, a family legacy, and a personal commitment to doing things the right way. We strive to be good stewards of the land, good neighbors to those around us. That's why I'm here tonight, not to ask to change the land's use, but to allow that the use be recognized and supported under today's codes. We respectfully ask the board to support our variances, to recognize Willie's Wagyu as a grandfathered agricultural operation under section 194.019, based on these following criteria that we think we meet: the property's continuous agricultural history, our investment in education and sustainability, and the town's stated vision of protecting rural character while allowing thoughtful evolution. Thank you for time and consideration. I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Are there any questions for Mr. Wilson from the board?
I was wondering, what products would you be selling? I know there's a list of here, but I wanted to know if there was anything outside this list. It says sell groceries, baked items, meat, fish, dairy products, health foods, apparel, hats, hygiene products, face creams, lotion, soap, and then freezer beef that's harvested. Is that correct? Is that the correct list?
I have not provided a list to
Okay.
anybody.
Do you have a list by any
I
chance?
do not.
Okay.
I want to be treated the same way that all of the other properties are treated, and that's the ability to sell what our clients and our customers want and need.
I only ask because I know that Jonathan has worked to try to find a loophole and approve this. And I know by providing a list, potentially, there might be a way to get that done.
Yeah, I think really we think that there, I've explored multiple options to fix this from a zoning perspective. Nobody in the city has had a conversation about the grandfathering position. You have, I think, in your packet, an email from Dennis Sanders that documents the historical agricultural presence on this land. So, I mean, that's...
I'm not clearly understanding, because you've made reference to the grandfathering of the agricultural nature of this property, but no one is asking you to stop what you're doing with raising the cattle. What we're discussing here is broadening what you can do on that property to allow you to have retail and have outdoor events. And we're not talking about telling you need to stop raising cattle. That grandfather, I mean, you've mentioned that a couple of times, and I don't think that's up for discussion.
what I'm saying is the grandfathering provision allow us to be a working farm just like Wonder Tree.
Okay, well, I don't know that being a working farm gives you the right to have a retail facility on your property.
Okay.
Nor does it allow you to have events there on your property. That's why you're having to find a use variance or ask for a use variance from us. So just to clarify that, because I don't think that we're challenging your ability to raise cattle on that property. Other questions for Mr. Wilson?
I guess, let's start with the retail. What are the hours of operation of the retail establishment? Is there going to be hours of operation? I didn't see anywhere in the filing where there were hours of operation. And I may have missed it. How many square foot of retail is there in this location?
It's probably, it's under 200. I mean, it's a small sleeve of the barn. The hours of operation started Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, 12 to 5. We have moved those hours around to accommodate our customers' requests, and we do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 12 to 6 on the property.
And then this is a health and safety on the retail side of it. With livestock that close to a retail location, particularly with food, is there a pest control program, fly control programs? Are we using something on cattle, like an atricide? What type of programs are you using to try to mitigate that issue?
The flies or?
Flies and
one of the
pests
things
in
that
general.
generally what the health department asked us to do was to build a wall separating that third of the barn from the other 2/3 of the barn. So that's how we've addressed it. And we do have fly mitigation. Purdue is here. They can talk about that. Cleanup 2 is what we use, and we also use dust bags.
Are the animals butchered on site, or are they taken off site?
No, they're harvested they have to be harvested at a USDA facility.
So I'm looking at the picture of your site, and you mentioned you have restrooms and I see a portalette,
Yep.
and recycling, I see a small a small dumpster. I don't see any covered space. If you would be hosting these activities, fundraisers and whatever, you would be inside your building, or where would those be taking place? And would
All
there
of
be
it-
other restroom facilities to accommodate?
All of the events have been done under a covered tent with restroom facilities and hand washing stations. Outside in the property, depending on the time of the day, one event was the open house, that went from 12 to 5. The other event was the cooking class, that was the fundraiser for Purdue, and that went from 2 to 5. And that was done on the north side of the barn. Is that
And
answering your question?
Well, it is, but you've also given us no idea of maximum population of these events. For another
No,
words,
we've actually capped them all at 25, other than the grand opening.
have we seen that number anywhere?
I've shared that with staff multiple, I shared it in the principal's office meeting with the city, that we've capped it at 25. If anybody in this
I didn't
room,
see that in your narrative, so I
yeah,
guess
if
I-
anybody in this room has ever watched Clarkson Farm on Amazon Prime, the last thing I want to do is create the chaos that's going on there.
watch
So,
Amazon
okay.
Prime, so,
Yeah.
sorry. Further questions for the petitioner?
On the outdoor recreational side, is there live music involved? I think I saw that in a remonstration letter somewhere. Is there live music at these events? And if so, is it acoustic, or are we talking amplified music?
We had my best friend from Nashville, a musician, come up and play acoustically for 2 hours during the 12 to 5 grand opening. No other event has had any music, hasn't had any amplification to it. If anybody has any complaints on the music, that would be from me, because when I'm in the store, I have my speaker going and I have my guitar going. So when there's no customers, I'm trying to figure out how to play some riffs. So that's where the best noise would be coming from.
How big is the parking lot?
We were able to accommodate, depending on how you wanted to define it, but there's room for 25 cars there, easy. And our average customer volume, our visits, just so everybody knows, is 10 to 15 people a day when we're open. That's it. We're not driving traffic. We're not driving noise. My biggest frustration, and Jonathan knows this, is that when my front gate is open, because of the detour and because of Albert's traffic, they're driving through my parking lot, sometimes 25 miles an hour with my animals out there, to cut through there and get back to Albert's. Or in the case of the detour, when it was really bad, they would cut through to eliminate going to the stop sign and skirt across to go down 200. So I have to address the issue on the west side of the barn and those entrances, and those probably need to be gated as well.
I think for me, reading these use variance documents, there's for me, a concerning lack of information about what this use variance, what your purpose would be. In other words, not having a list of what you would intend to sell retail, at least a general list, or not having more specific information about what these outdoor gatherings would look like. If we're giving you permission to have outdoor gatherings, you're saying that they've been a maximum of 25, but in concept, you could have 500 people there if you've been given that ability. In the same way, you could be selling on your property not just farm-based products that you're producing. You could be selling, lines of Calvin Klein clothing if you wanted. So you see that the permission that you're asking for is very broad, and we're trying to understand more specifically what your intention is in order to know whether that's something that fits into that spot or not. We're not talking about raising cattle. I mean, you've mentioned that. That's not the question that we're dealing with here. So, any other questions? Because I think we have a number of people who also
Yeah,
have
I'll
asked to
address the
speak.
events. The events were designed to be 4 times a year and to be specific fundraisers for Purdue to continue to fund the scholarship and the general discretionary fund. limited to 25 to 30 people. I mean, that's all I want on my property, quite honestly. I have no desire for large parties. I'm 61. I have no stamina to complete those midnights anymore.
So, Mr. Wilson, if the board was willing to consider any of these variances, would you create a list of what you plan to do as a restriction to what you're able to do, both on the operation of what they're calling the outdoor recreation facility and the items that you would be selling in your store? Because
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
Please.
we've got full animal products that we can sell. Where I got reported by my neighbors was selling Wendy's eggs while she was on vacation. In the recent staff email, that's now allowed. I can sell eggs and everything but hats and T-shirts. So the list, I'm happy to work through a list with anybody. I just don't want to be constricted to a list that if we come up with a new product, I need to come back in here to get approval to add those items to a list. You're not asking other operating farms to do that currently, at least not that I know of.
The variances requested is really rather wide open. And I don't think you're going to find much give on that. I think that if there's any consideration, you would have to be willing to provide a list, at least that we could work from. And same on what your plan would be for the events. I also serve on the Planning Commission, and as we look at retail use variances, that also directs to development plan and paving and some other things like that, that I think we would also need to require you to look at if we're even willing to consider the variances. I very much hear the argument that you're a farm and you want to operate as a farm. My fellow commissioner, I think, eloquently said, nobody's trying to stop you from that. Your argument that the legacy of it would be stronger if you were still zoned ag, but this property is zoned R2.
That's true. That's very true. And I made that argument to the staff as well. This needs to go back to ag. Staff told me.
And that, forgive me, that suggests a zoning change, not a variance.
Agreed. And we're not asking for a zoning change because staff told us that they would vehemently oppose us with spot zoning, and if we were granted ag, I would not be able to build a home on the property.
That is true. I guess a home would require a variance
It would
on
require a variance.
the property.
So we have a number of people who've signed up to speak, and perhaps
I can wait on my further
Mr. Wilson, if
questions.
we could circle back with you and allow these people a chance. I have, those of you who have signed up, I have your names here. I'm going to ask you to please be very brief and to just, if you identify yourself with your name and your address, and if you are a neighbor of this property, please indicate that. And also, please, if you hear somebody say what you would like to say, then just simply say, I agree with that person, and move on, so that we're not hearing the same ideas over and over again, if you don't mind. So the first name I have here is Patrick Mullen. Would you like me there? Yes, at the podium, please, and give your name and address.
I appreciate everybody taking the time to turn out for whatever reason. It's important we be involved. My name's Patrick Mullen. I live at 655 South, 840 East. I have since 1984. That's Zionsville, a couple of gravel roads. I don't like the idea of having a retail operation right there that is not products that are all grown there or produced there. That's my biggest objection. I wouldn't want signs or to change the nature of the property. As far as its agricultural use, I don't know all the legal terms, right? But the Sanders lived there forever, and they had cattle. that's what it was. And that's what I thought you bought, Mr. Wilson, was like that. And I have no problem with that. I love the idea of exposing people to the whole animal use.
Mr. Mullen, if you would address the board, please.
Sorry, the
And
board,
not-
I
and not-
apologize.
Yeah,
It's so personal for Mr. Wilson.
I
I
understand
feel
that.
obligated for that. But I like the idea of exposing the people to the whole animal usage. I think that's a great idea. You don't really see that anywhere. I love the educational aspect. It seems like you can do that now with what's there. And the traffic and noise is really all I've seen from the outside. And it's just not the same. Didn't expect it to be the same. You buy it, you get to do what you want to it. But
All right.
I think that this project should be done somewhere else.
thank you, Mr. Mullen. Albert Lewis?
My name's Albert Lewis, and I've lived there for, 40 years.
If you would give your address, please. Mr. Lewis?
Pardon?
Your address, please.
8995 East 200 South.
Thank
I live right west. And I'm all for Mr. Wilson raising his beef and selling his beef, and his agriculture thing is fine with me. But the rest of it just doesn't fit in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Misty Fans?
My name is Misty Fons. I live at 1570 South 900 East, so just under a mile away. I was really excited to see a place that was going to sell beef. I'm really happy to have that in the neighborhood. My concern is it feels like it's trying to become a destination. I watched a lot of the Facebook videos where he talked about what he wanted to do and showing children science and things, and I have kids, and I'm all for that. But I just feel like it's serving its purpose now, and for it to become a destination and the things that it's being opened up to with retail, I feel like it could just, at this point, we'd be relying on, I guess, trusting his word and what he says he's going to sell or how many people he's going to have there. And I feel like, but once it would be granted, really it opens up to a lot more, so that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. Is it Jenny Jenkins?
Jenny Jenkins. My address is 1730 South, 950 East. Forgive me, I'm actually just going to read real quickly my notes. I've lived just a half a mile from the site for nearly 30 years, and as both a neighbor and environmental nonprofit professional with more than a decade of experience protecting natural resources in Indiana, I'm here to urge you to reject these variance requests. I don't believe they're respectful to the neighbors. This is not a sustainable farm, and this is not what a rural area was meant to be. Longtime residents of this part of Zionsville have felt increasingly under siege from residential and commercial development. Many of us who've lived here for years assumed that zoning would be respected, that floodplains would remain undeveloped, and that rural neighborhoods would remain rural. Unfortunately, this has not always been the case, and I urge you to listen to those of us who call this place home. When Mr. Wilson acquired the property, I was relieved to hear that it would be a farm rather than yet another residential subdivision, which seems to be the trend here in Zionsville nowadays. But instead, he brought in enough industrial equipment to build a subdivision. He clear-cut hundreds of mature trees right in the middle of a wildlife breeding season, killing countless young wildlife. And what was once a wooded natural landscape became an exposed construction zone, which has been filled, dredged, and reshaped beyond recognition. This destruction was heartbreaking for some of us neighbors. Bulldozing woodlands to raise Wagyu beef, the most land, feed, and water-intensive form of cattle, is not sustainability. It's marketing. This is not conservation, this is commercialization, and it's disguised with greenwashing by Mr. Wilson. We already have seen the impacts of similar land use. Finley Creek Vineyards, which is an event center close by in our neighborhood, when they have events, the peace that we expect in a rural area is widely disruptive. Wildlife and neighbors alike are affected, and adding another commercial venue to this corridor would simply multiply that disruption. If these variances were truly essential to the business plan, as is claimed in the petition, they should have been requested before the operations began, not after transforming the land and impacting the neighborhood. This part of Zionsville is zoned for low-density residential use for a reason. The staff report is clear. These requests are inconsistent with that zoning and could lower adjacent property values, and I agree entirely. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Fennell?
My name is Dr. Bethany Funnell. I am a clinical associate professor at Purdue University in the bovine field services section. I am Mr. Wilson's herd veterinarian. I have an extensive list of notes, but in the interest of...
I think if you could keep it brief, that would be
brief,
great.
yes.
Thank you.
So I have been working with Mr. Wilson on this agricultural operation, on his beef operation, from the start. I have been very impressed with his attention to the details, doing things as recommended, his attention to the animals and their well-being, and his enthusiasm for teaching. I bring students with me to all of these operations, and his operation is very unique among our clients, and I really value the opportunity to show our students something that's different that they may be exposed to as they go into their own practices. We are looked at as consultants for our clients, and having students exposed to this gives them opportunities to maybe share some ideas with their clients that could potentially help them be successful in the future. The interesting and challenging thing with beef operations is they are asset-rich, cash-poor enterprises. And so in order to be profitable and to be successful and be sustainable, sustainability is not just related to environment, it is also associated with socioeconomic stability or sustainability. And without having the mechanism by which to market product in a manner that is going to continue on the operation, it's not going to work, and it will disappear, and then you will have your housing division in that space, unfortunately. That is the nature of what we see in the beef industry and in agricultural industry across the country, not just here in Indiana. So that is one of the challenges that I think those of us that are in it and see it and live it, getting creative in how we can generate revenue to keep everything going is very important. And Tim has been an amazing benefactor for us. He, like I said, he really supports the students, allows them to work with his animals, teaches them what he knows from his perspective, and then also has been very, very generous in working on developing a scholarship fund so that we can continue to have food animal veterinarians to service small farms throughout the country. So
Thank you, Dr. Funnell. Jan Cizik?
Hi, I'm Jan Cizik, and I live at 1893 South 900 East, a couple houses down from the ranch. I have been there I've been over to Tim so many times now, and I've always been so impressed with how he wants to give back. I've seen him give back, and I've been able to be there when Dr. Funnell and her students come, and he's let me know when they're coming so I can go watch what goes on, because I'm a registered vet tech too, so it's highly interesting to me. And I've also brought some neighborhood kids, and he has been so generous with teaching those kids what he can and just answering questions. And to me, to deny what he needs, and I get the T-shirts and the shirts, and we can do without that as far as I'm concerned. But the other things that he wants has everything to do with farms in the area. I dehydrate meat and for dog treats because I'm a dog trainer, and he gave me a bunch of Wagyu to dehydrate, and so we were thinking that maybe we could sell that. So he's not looking to do anything crazy. I think that he's such an asset to this community, and he gives back to give a quick story. I need
Or,
some,
We've
No-
got a
no
lot of.
stories?
Okay, thank you so much. We have a lot of voices to hear. Thank you so much. Bill Parker?
Hello, my name is Bill Parker. I'm at 9140 East 200. I'm literally right across the street from Tim, 3 houses in. There's a lot of things that I had questions on that, from a traffic perspective. The development that's going in with Bradley Estates, the developments in Whitestown, that's what's causing the traffic. And for us to sit here and say that the 10 or 15 cars that Tim's creating is ludicrous. There is a massive traffic problem that I've asked the county to help us with because of speeding and passing and just craziness that goes on there. From an outdoor recreation perspective, he's never once bothered us. We've never had loud music. We've never had issues that would cause concern for me as a neighbor. He's been nothing but a great neighbor. When you look at what it is now compared to what it was a junkyard prior to Tim taking over and getting rid of all the trash and changing the landscape to be cattle and pasture. So we've been nothing but supportive of this. I think he's a great neighbor. I think we should you all should absolutely consider approving his request. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Sherry Leffler?
I'm Sherry Leffler. I live at 1850 South, 1200 East. I've grown up in Zionsville. My parents still live very close to this facility on 875. I think the last gentleman really hit on a lot of points. We're battling a lot of subdivisions. Union Township has become the hotbed, and we're begging to preserve some ag features and small agribusinesses within us. And I've been to his event, and it was small. We've had bigger graduation parties than what he hosted there. It was very peaceful, and we saw a lot of neighbors and friends there. And I think he offers a lot to this community in a way to preserve something as opposed to just putting more homes. And again, like I said, the last gentleman, the traffic is unreal, and they're getting ready to propose another 360 homes out there. It's going to pick up. It's not going to be because of his small business that's going on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anna Chappell?
Good evening. My name is Anna Chappell. I live on 200 South. I moved to Zionsville 4 years ago because it was the only donut suburb that you could have an agricultural and city lifestyle all in one. We picked 200 South because it gives us great proximity to agribusinesses. Every week we're at Wonder Tree. Now we're at Anne Marie's, Albert's frequently. We're working through a half cow right now, so I haven't had a chance to visit Willie's yet. But when I think about what rural Zionsville should look like and what I want it to be around me, I can't think of a better example than something like this. I have 80 acres surrounding me, and it could become anything. And if I were to picture what it would be something like this. I've stood up here many times in front of you guys, some Plan Commission members, advocating on behalf of rural lifestyles and people who want hobby farms. And I want to stand up here advocating for this. I don't think we should always just say no to everything. If we're going to say no, we don't want high-density development, then what do we want, right, as Zionsville residents who want to save rural Zionsville? And I want businesses around me that within a 3-minute drive, I can get my weekly milk, my weekly eggs, and things like that. And yeah, I just thank you for what you're doing in this community. I hope we can get more of it. My fear if we turn something like this down is it puts constraint on the agritourism sector of our community on how they can do business. It's really expensive to buy land right now. I imagine it's hard to be profitable in anything that's not super dense. And so if we can offer some flexibility to these type of businesses so that more of them are attracted to not only come here but stay here, that's what I love. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Justin Kellum.
My name's Justin Kellum. I live at 7501 East 100 North, and I want to talk on the youth's behalf. I want to start by saying America is run on farmers. That will never change, and it allows sustainable farming practices and promotes farming to the younger generation, such as the fundraising for Purdue. Purdue is a big Indiana college that represents Indiana, and this would reflect Zionsville in a great way if if Tim was allowed to host fundraising events for Purdue. It allows the youth to gather and gain knowledge about food production and farming in general, which ultimately goes back to the fact that America runs on farmers. It's also a more ethical form of farming, allowing customers to track their food back to the specific animal, allowing for a reliable source of food. And then it's personally affected me and my friends, allowing us to think outside of our screens, which is something that's very important with the youth today. It has brought me and my friends to cook food for ourselves rather than spending money at outrageous prices at chain restaurants around Zionsville. And then going back to the traffic, someone said it perfectly, but no matter the retail or fundraising events at this location, the traffic would be no more than it would if there were 10 single-family homes placed on this property.
Thank you. And just to be clear, no one is arguing or debating about his raising cattle on that piece of property. That is not up for debate, just to be clear. Evan Foster?
Hey, I'm Evan Foster. I live at 2704 Still Creek Drive. I've lived in Zionsville for about 10 years now, and recently I've started to purchase more from Willie's Wagyu, and I just wanted to come up here to show my support for Willie's Wagyu and give a perspective of what the younger generations of this town think about this business. I think that Willie's Wagyu embodies Zionsville in such a positive way. He helps support close-knit communities with bringing more events to Zionsville, and also just bringing small businesses to this town. Every weekend, Tim's company, he helps bring me and my friends together to enjoy a cookout. So overall, I just want to say thank you, Tim, for creating this business, and that it's brought so much people together through this business and turned our small Indiana town into more of a close-knit community and supporting the members in this town of Zionsville.
Thank you. Mark Hanna?
Good evening. So actually a pleasure to be here. I don't really involve myself civically, but I want to give you a perspective as a very new resident who made an extremely sizable investment in Zionsville.
If you would give your, sorry to interrupt, your address, please.
Yeah, 8901
Thank you.
East 250 South, and visited, gotten to know Tim fairly well over the last couple months since being here. But you know, from my perspective being here, what drew me and my family here was the rural feel. I come from a part of Western New York I grew up with farmers, and I embraced that farm lifestyle. Came from Carmel. Carmel blew through, we couldn't wait to get out of there because we didn't want all that growth. However, here, I think what Tim's trying to do, in fact, is to give back to the community, and also in that same spirit of what makes Zionsville rural and you know, the educational aspect. So, you know, bottom line, I agree with that. The retail stores, it has no effect on me. In fact, we'd be kind of bummed if it left, because we walk right up to Tim's and then go across to Albert's and get our home cooked, locally grown meals, and it makes it even better to be part of Zionsville. So I urge you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ed Memmer? And again, if we could be, if you would just agree if what you want to say is the same as you've heard, just say I agree and we'll be good.
I'm Ed Memon, live at 9255 East 200 South. My western border of my property abuts Mr. Wilson's eastern side, and I have no problem with the cattle there. It's consistent with what was there before. I've lived in Zionsville for 45 years and purchased this property 20 years ago to move to a more rural area, and the farms suit me very well, but that's not the issue anyway. My concern is that the variances are overly broad and vague, such that it could grow to something that's more than what we're discussing here today, and become something bigger. And that's what I would object to.
All right, thank you for your input. Do we have anybody online? Andrew? Is Andrew back there? Is there anybody online that would like to speak? No? Okay, I'm sorry. You have. If you would like to approach the podium, please, and give your name and address.
Dawn Ayers, 1575 South 900 East. First of all, in speaking tonight, it is not my intention to make an enemy of Tim. I understand he's a super nice person. But if there were some assurances on these variances that the only event that would be taking place on this property was the Purdue students coming to learn about the Wagyu business, that would be nice. As well, if the retail store were just selling beef, as it has been, that would be nice. But my fear, too, is that this becomes a busy store selling many things, and it's a slippery slope that could generate a very busy shopping area. And my skepticism is that these variances allow for a lot more than just those stated intentions. If a year from now, Tim decides he wants to start hosting other events like weddings, fundraisers, corporate-sponsored gatherings, what is to stop one once you have the variance that allows that? We who live in this area have really tried to defend the peaceful, charming, quiet solitude of country living and have found ourselves duped in the past. Hence, we tend to be suspicious and untrusting. I completely understand wanting to run a profitable business and gain personal wealth, but I think the wealth of the residents on 200, 900, and 875 should also be considered. Large signs, increased traffic, parking lots, noises, smells, outdoor lighting, lower property values in the surrounding area, and take away from the ambiance of rural living that we absolutely cherish. I don't think the profit of one should take precedence over the well-being of the many who live in the area. This area has always been zoned R2, and I hate to see that change, as it will change the timbre of our existence. As well, I fear it will open up many variances to be granted to other businesses who say, well, if he can have a variance, why can't I have a variance? And we will no longer have a rural living area. I question whether changing R2 to commercial is a good idea in the long run. I sure wish there was a way to put some restrictions on this so that we can be assured this doesn't blossom into more than we bargained for in the long run. I think this could be a slippery slope. And again, I mean no offense or harm to Tim. I just think we all need to dive deeper and explore the potential implications and not follow blindly. We love our little slice of heaven, and I don't want to risk losing it in any way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I think, Mr. Smith? Comment?
Maybe other people that wish to speak that was not aware of the sign-in sheet. Just wanted to, so
Thank
open
you.
it up to the
Yes,
public.
okay. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak? Please come to the podium and give your name and address. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Takes a village.
My mother was on a zoning board. You'd think I'd know better about signing up. Mike Zittel. I live at 8895 East 200 South, so I'm a very close proximity neighbor. Very eloquently said by the last speaker, fundamentally what I was going to say, but I wanted to just add my voice. And that is simply, you know, the definition of recreation is doing something when you're not working. It's a very broad word. And I echo the concern about, I'm not questioning what Tim has done, what he intends to do, what he's trying to do, all those things. I also agree that noise and traffic has been an increasing issue independent of that business, so I don't really have an issue with that as it sits today. But it was well said by, I think you, Madam Chairman, how that is worded and what that opens up to potentially down the road, despite the current intention to go from 25 people to 500 people to hosting a wedding or something like that. So that's my fundamental concern. And I wouldn't feel comfortable saying yes to this unless there was some wording in the variance or something that restricted or defined that more specifically.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Wilson, I don't know if you have anything further to add after hearing the comment? No? Thoughts, discussion? Are there further questions for the petitioner that he should approach the podium and respond? Well, I'm speaking for myself. Without having some constraints, some boundaries, I am disinclined to approve these use variances without some kind of contingents, some kind of conditions, let's say, on what they mean, maximum number of people that can be at these events, things that can be sold in the retail store, so that we're not just granting a really broad permission to do these activities without any constraints. I'm disinclined to do that.
I do concur with you, but Mr. Wilson has
I
approached
see.
the podium, so
I
I didn't
see.
know if he wanted.
No, I'm just here to answer questions.
Oh.
I mean,
right.
I appreciate everybody's input and thoughts and comments. I mean, I've said what I limit the events to. I
Well,
understand that the concern that this is granted, then I could do 500 or 1,000.
But saying, see, in our situation, saying those things is not sufficient. In other words, they need to be for us prescribed very clearly in our approval, so that you are held to that standard and we understand what the standard is. And standing there and saying, okay, well, I'm only going to have 25 people is not going to be sufficient for us to grant the use variance.
Okay.
If you understand what I'm
If I say
saying.
I'll stand here and I'll have less than 100, is that acceptable?
No, I think what
Because
needs.
that gives me the flexibility to, I think fundamentally, my question for this group is, how, as a citizen, can I not have a private fundraiser without your permissions?
Well, I think you can have a private fundraiser. You're asking for something substantially different than that.
No, I told Jonathan these were private fundraisers. They're invite only.
All right. But you're saying, how can I not have a private fundraiser as a citizen? And no one is saying that you're asking for permission to have the right to have numerous fundraisers on your property or outdoor events on your property that are not necessarily fundraisers. And that is what we're discussing tonight.
Okay, let's just take a step back, because the events are fundraisers for Purdue. That's it. That's the only events.
Okay. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying to
Okay.
you. Because we're talking at different things. You're asking for permission to host events on your property. You're not saying, we're not giving you permission to host a Purdue event. We would be giving you permission to host numerous events on your property with no description of maximum number of participants or how frequently they would happen. This is a broad permission to have an activity on your property. And you're talking about specific examples of what you have done. We're talking about the broad permission to do something that you have requested. Thank you. So we would need to have more parameters around that in order to feel like that would be something that I believe, I'm speaking for myself.
I'm willing to have dialogue around those parameters.
Forgive me, Catherine, forgive me, Amanda. It seems to me that I might be hearing from Mr. Wilson that he disagrees with the staff's assessment. And I don't know that that's us. That may be an appeal.
I totally disagree with the staff's assessment. I said it in the meeting. I've said it multiple times. We're having fundraisers as events 4 times a year for Purdue on our property. Those will involve cooking classes for Purdue. Those will involve embryo transfer demonstrations, one that I was set to have on July 19th that we were told to cancel. So I'm willing to have the dialogue around it. I disagree with being in the box of an outdoor recreational activity to have a fundraiser. And that's been my fundamental question every single time. If the business does it or I do it personally, those are the events. There's no concerts, there's none of weddings, there's none of that.
You have a comment to make, Mr.?
Yes, I would just say this. The position of the town is that if you disagree with the staff on a determination they make, you have the right to appeal that decision. It would come before this board, but that is not why we're here tonight. You have that right. You can do that. But the only thing we are hearing tonight are 2 use variances and a development standards variance. So with all due respect, you can talk about how you disagree with the staff, and that's your right, but it doesn't help us much because we're left to deal with what you requested. That's all we're doing tonight. So just, I don't want you to misunderstand or think we're not listening to you, but the board cannot deal with the issue of your disagreement about whether you need these relief you've requested. That's a different issue altogether. So just to clarify that.
Do you have input on that?
I just wanted to say, thank you for everybody speaking. I think it's so important to, no matter where you are in the opinion, to have a dialogue and have it civilly. So thank you guys all for coming up. And I love what you're doing. I buy from all local Zionsville. I think it's so important to have, you know, your product, and I think it's wonderful. But I do agree with Kathy in the sense that, you know, like any investments any of us has made, we have to understand the use of the property before we buy the investment. And sometimes, like actually right before this when we went through, someone had to pull out of their request because the property didn't actually align with the use that they were going to intend to do. And so that's just being a responsible business owner, right? Sometimes that happens. But I am inclined to want to try to work this out, but with no list of products, it makes it really challenging to have a dialogue about it. You know, we had asked about a number of people. Again, 25 is the first time I had heard that. And then Kathy, when you engage, now we're up to 100 cap, and so
No,
that's
I'm just looking for flexibility.
Well,
It's
but that's exactly
all.
what we're talking about. You
Right.
know, when you said it would be 25 max, and then just now it's 100. So that's why we are asking that there be some parameters put in
Yeah,
place.
I'm just looking towards the future to make sure that I don't paint myself into a corner. That's all.
We want that as well, I think.
What?
So I think we want that as well, so
Right.
that you don't bait yourself into a
I
corner.
mean, I don't have a problem continuing this and working on a list and working on a list of products and to get some clarity around this fundraising part. And I'm willing to commit to limit it to size. And so if you guys want to continue and work through those two, I'm fine with that.
So if we, go ahead.
Sorry, Catherine. So, you know, there are hurdles we have to get over as BZA members. And on the, whether or not we're negatively affecting the adjacent properties on the first two variances, I do think a lot of that can be mitigated by a carefully discussed and agreed to list of restrictions, if you will. Help me out with we also have to overcome unnecessary hardship. Help me with how I overcome unnecessary hardship. And again, I know you don't like the zoning that's applied to the property, but it is zoned R2. You're allowed to have a farming operation on there, which you have, and I can safely say my wife is glad that you have it. We've been customers. But you are getting an appropriate use out of that property. And there are other things you could do with that property that don't require a zoning variance that would allow you to profit from that property. So I do need some help on the unnecessary hardship under the zoning law, or what's unique about this property.
Does the hardship apply specific to the land, or is it to the business and to the investment?
Applies to your request. So you've made 3 requests.
Yep.
They all 3 require you to overcome or to show that the zoning ordinance imposes an unnecessary undue hardship on whatever it is you're asking to do, if that helps you.
Yep. Well, I'll start with the hardship of the attorneys that wanted to stand here next to me. The quotes ranged from $65,000 to $100,000 to stand next to me. That's the first hardship. The second hardship is if we're not able to sell these products and have these events, we will be forced to move to a different location. I'm willing to work on a list that is not restrictive, but is in agreement that it works. I have no desire to sell a ton of T-shirts or any of that stuff, but I do want to sell agricultural-based products. If, in fact, we're not able to do that in the retail store, it forces our hand as far as what we want to do, because Dr. Funnell pointed out all of the constraints on the cattle business. So the economics of it are pretty simple for me. I'm an investor. If, in fact, this doesn't work, we can't work on an agreement, then we will be forced to look and have a serious conversation about whether we want to be here and if we want to be in a different location. That's the economic facts. I'm not here to make a ton of money. I've already made all my money. I'm here to get back to a community. I need this to be profitable.
Mr. Smith, did I understand that if he is selling locally produced agricultural products, that use variance is not required? Is that right? Or am I wrong?
That's correct. Well, the use variance for retail.
Right, for the retail part of it.
And you know, just to be transparent and regrettably, I know Mr. Wilson has had numerous conversations with staff over this last few months. I have not been a part of every single conversation. Early on, I was gone, and so I wasn't really engaged with that. But relatively recently, we're trying to find a way, or I was trying to find a way, I hope y'all guys know this, that if I can work with a petitioner to allow them to do something without needing y'all's approval, that's what we try to do, right? And so we found a way that would accommodate local, I'm going to use the word produce, fruits, vegetables, and we've repeatedly told him he can continue to sell his freezer beef. That's not a problem at all. When I first had this conversation, I believe the whole thing was about eggs, right? He had been turned in for selling his neighbor's eggs, and so I was trying to find a way. I was focusing on local eggs, produce. That's kind of like a farmer's market. I was trying to find a way to get him to where he could operate like a local farmer's market without necessarily being outside of the zoning ordinance. And, you know, and I think this was yesterday, maybe Monday, I sent for the list, you know, if he's limiting his product list to those items that are locally grown and produced items, he wouldn't need the retail use variance. Now, I'm going to caveat that by saying that list he could not sell hats. He could not sell shirts, right? We would have to have a way to tie it in to some sort of produce grown locally, something farmer's market type of stuff. Unfortunately, I didn't get the list, right? It sounds like maybe y'all want to see a list as well, so maybe.
Sounds like there was a list in their packet. I haven't even seen it.
The list I put in that you read in your packet was based off of items that I had heard were in the complaint, right? He's selling eggs. Okay, so I know he's selling eggs. I put that list in the packet, understanding that if you approved it, I don't want a neighbor or some person in our community being able to say, Tim didn't disclose this, right? You know, he only got approved for beef, but in reality, he's selling eggs, right? So I included that list of items that I had heard he may be selling, or maybe he wasn't. And again, when I showed up to your site, I didn't see everything on that list. Those were just things that I'd heard. I wanted to see it for myself. You're selling eggs, okay, let me see what you're selling, right? And when I showed up, I didn't see eggs, right? I saw one carton of eggs, but not a whole wall of eggs. Anyway, the list you have was inclusive of what was relayed to me through the complaints that were started through code enforcement.
So circling back, Mr. Hurst, the argument with regard to hardship, is that, I mean, what I'm wondering is, does it make sense for us to continue this so that there can be discussions about creating these lists and also some parameters around the event, the special use variance for hosting events? Is there enough buy-in that we should continue it so they can further those discussions?
I am one of 5.
I understand.
I still, with due respect to the economics of the business that he wants to run, the retail and outdoor recreation center businesses he's asking for a variance for on residential 2, I don't know that the fact that he can't run those businesses under R2 is in and of itself a necessary hardship. There are other things he could be doing with the property. Could well be the neighbors rather have what he's doing than see this developed into a neighborhood.
That's this.
However, that doesn't necessarily
That's
get
the
me
first
over
time anybody's gotten a
unnecessary
hand on this
hardship.
board, I can tell you.
That's the stark reality.
I-
If we can't work this out, this property will trade again, and I'll develop it.
And so with that understanding, if there's any consideration for this, it's going to have to be continued, in my mind, so that the petitioner can work with staff to get restrictive lists that we can understand more precisely what the scale of his operation that he envisions, even in the future, is going to be.
Right. I think that's fair.
I mean, I was pretty disappointed not to see a plan of operation for either the retail or for the outdoor event. I mean, it would alleviate a lot of these questions we're asking. But we haven't seen any sort of plan of operation for either of those. I guess from my eyes, I look at this as we've got agricultural, agribusiness, and agritourism. Agricultural, he's got the right to do that today, as he is. Agribusiness and the retail side of it, and agritourism and an event center. All 3 of those are, in my eyes, are 3 completely different areas of, I mean, agritourism is not a farm. And so I'm still having some difficulty with the hardship side of it, but I think some sort of plan of operation for both the retail and the event or outdoor recreational facility would be beneficial.
So, are we ready to make a motion of some type to move this along?
Start with variance 3?
An easy one?
Well, maybe we should start with the hard stuff first.
Oh, okay.
Well, in that case.
You have a question?
I just, you know, if y'all do continue this, right, and we start having conversations just for Mr. Wilson's sake, I know there's been a lot of discussion, especially at the planning side, about what's on the other side, right, of BZA. Specifically, is he going to need to go for a development plan approval? I know staff is recommending that as a condition. Y'all may not have enough information to elaborate, but if y'all are inclined to not only make that a condition of approval, I think it's fair for Mr. Wilson to hear a conversation about that, because that's going to trigger the requirement to turn in for Plan Commission if this is approved, right? And I know you've vocalized some concerns about those requirements on the front end, and that may impact decisions and conversations that we have if this is continued. So
Yeah, I think the conversations that we've had specifically is if the R2 is approved, or if the retail is approved in R2, It would force me to build a parking lot with lights and a bunch of stuff that I don't think these neighbors want, honestly. And so I've been very honest. That is economically not viable for the cattle business. And so that will trigger a different strategy for us. And I've just been very clear about that. I don't know what else to add. I mean, you're talking about, literally, we've costed it out. It's $250,000 to do the parking lot and the lights. I haven't built a home here yet.
So are these things that are mandated even if the events are in the afternoon, their daylight hours, that lights would be required?
Lighting is, so the things that would be required, right? For example, parking. There are standards that are applicable to pick one or the other, either retail or outdoor event venue, right? Those standards vary depending on, for example, the square footage of the retail store or the size of the outdoor event space, right? So depending on the size of those things will dictate the amount of parking that's required, for example. Buffer yards, right? A non-residential use abutting a residential use, which would be the case here. There's a standard, a development standard that would, be applicable to this situation. There's standards if there's 15 parking spaces in a row, right? You have to break that up with landscaping. So there's the possibility, depending on how the calculations work out, that if he has to have 15 or more spaces, the development standards require those to be, broken up with some sort of island, right? It's really depending on what he wants to do. Lighting, for example, if he wants to put in lighting, I don't want to sit here and say that it's an absolute requirement because I don't know the lighting standards off the top of my head. But if he puts in lighting, if something that he wants to do, he would have to adhere to the standard, right? Whatever those applicable standards are. So these use variances, if they're approved, there are development standards, generally speaking, at a minimum, a site plan.
Well, but okay, let's just deal with the
Yeah.
thing that we're dealing with right now, and which is, are there further conversations that we want to have regarding these use variances and the development standards variants that are in front of us right now? And part of that conversation is if they are approved subsequently, there will be further steps that will have to be dealt with by the petitioner, right? But I don't think we should be looking down the road trying to determine what he may want to do in that situation, unless other people feel like.
I'm just bringing it up because it's
Yeah,
a
I
recommended
understand.
condition of approval.
Right.
Just want to make you all aware that that's what we're recommending.
That's
And
all
that
right.
dialogue that
Process.
Jonathan and I had were about, be careful what you wish for. If you win, you're going to have to do this, 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 and this. And that's a parking lot, and that's lights, and all of it.
I think perhaps the restrictive list on what the outdoor recreation facility or center, or whatever the language is, and a restrictive list on retail and understanding the scope. I have a more expert fellow planning commission member here, but I believe you can also ask for waivers under development plans. I understand, as someone that has tried to do projects or done projects previously, the tediousness of some of this, but it's a necessary process. I don't see a way to approve anything tonight. There is room to continue, or there's room to say, we just didn't have enough here tonight and to deny it. So I'm kind of disinclined to make a motion because I might vote for yes for either one of those to get moved.
Other thoughts? So we can,
I mean, there's definitely challenges going, I do my best not to have my planning commission hat on in the BZA meetings, but there's definitely challenges moving forward. I mean, there's no doubt about that with the development plan. I'm just looking at the site alone. And bringing up buffer yards, you didn't bring up how close the road is, or the driveway entrance is to the intersection there. I think there's gonna be some concerns with that as well. But I think our next, I'm very open to looking at this if we had some sort of plan of operation or some sort of list or give us some better ideas of how this is going to look in 2 to 3 years and what's going to be going on there in 2 to 3 years. That's where I think our next step is.
Agree. It,
Okay, so we would need 3 separate motions to continue if somebody that would be willing to jump in there and,
Next meeting date is
September-
September 3rd,
9th, I
Ninth.
think.
9th.
yeah.
Labor Day moved it.
Oh, that's right. I move to continue docket 2025-22-UV to continue to the September 9th meeting.
Is there a second?
second.
Further discussion? Mr. Dale, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Amanda Miller,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Kathy Postlewaite.
Aye. Second?
I move that docket 2025-23-UV be continued to the September 9th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Dale?
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Amanda Miller,
Aye.
Kathy Postlewaite,
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
All right, last one.
Yep.
I move that docket 2025-25-DSV be continued to our September 9th meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Dale?
Josh Fedor,
Aye.
Josh Martin,
Aye.
Amanda Miller,
Aye.
Kathy Postlewaite,
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Okay, then hopefully you can work with the planning department, and we'll see you in September and see where you are.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the support,
coming.
folks.
Yeah, and thank you all for coming this evening to give us your input. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Looks like a planning commission meeting.
I know, very confused.
Oh, wow.
With eggs, if you sell eggs, you have to have a license individually, and whoever's selling that has to have a license. Bird eggs, they gotta get their $10 egg. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. Rose Acres makes it so big.
I was just gonna say, because I was first out there.
I was looking actually. It producers, a list on the other day, to try to figure out how to sell something. Good buddy. A little bit.
Excuse me, if you would please clear the room. We still have business to do.
Like, what? And like, it's actually.
Gentlemen, if you would clear the room, please. We still have items on our agenda to deal with. And ladies. And, all right. The next item on our agenda is docket number 2025-25-DSV. Jacob Greenwald is, Mr. Greenwald here? You hung in there through all this? Okay, we'll start with the staff report, and then we'll ask you to approach the podium and give your name and address for us. Mr. Smith?
Yes, forgot to give you the sign-in sheet. Give me 1 second.
Okay, no, okay.
Okay, this is a unique situation. The request is a development center variance, 194082, Table 3, and 194097, Section C, which are the development standards, to reduce the side yard setback and allow for an accessory structure square footage to exceed the primary square footage in the ag zoning district. Again, to save time, I'm going to let the staff report speak for itself, but I do want to talk on the on the findings specifically, and to give you a little history related to this petition, the petitioner, he has a Whitestown address, or they have a Whitestown address, and with a Whitestown address, they approached the town of Whitestown and inquired about if they were in their zoning jurisdiction. You know, through whatever happened, the planning department in Whitestown confirmed that this property was in Whitestown's jurisdiction. And based off that information from Whitestown, the petitioner submitted a permit to Whitestown to build this project. I talked to the Whitestown staff. There was a couple of lapses in their process as part of this application. But anyway, it went to their permitting team, and they issued a building permit, right? So Whitestown issued a building permit for this project. With that permit, operating in good faith, the owner went out and purchased the materials and started doing, I believe it's just the groundwork, kind of laying the foundation for this building. I don't know the exact revision, but I know it was a minor revision, which was decided that they were going to do some sort of minor revision. And they took that revision to the town of Whitestown, operating in good faith with their inspectors. And at that time, whatever that minor revision was, the inspectors looked at the permit and realized that they had issued a permit that was not in their jurisdiction. And I think this took place over the span of 3 or 4 months, if I'm not mistaken. And by the time the error had been realized, you know, all the building materials had already been, you know, brought to the site and ordered. Most of the earthwork, if not all of the earthwork, has been completed. And so this is a situation that was not, staff believes this situation was not created by the petitioner. It's a issue and a situation he's been placed in by, you know, through error of other local municipality. And because of that, we believe this is unnecessary hardship. We don't believe this is going to impact the neighbors. We have not heard any negative feedback from the community or surrounding property owners, despite public noticing going out. So we believe all 3 criteria for a development standard variance has been met. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there questions? Mr. Smith?
Has there been a conversation with Whitestown to correct the errors so that this doesn't occur again?
Yeah, I talked to their director, their department head for their building team, and for their planning and zoning team, and they've worked out a system where it's going to be corrected. In addition to that, they are switching relatively recently to an online permitting software, and that online permitting software has a workflow.
Town lines on it.
Which is
most
essentially, you know, the permitting guys aren't going to see something until it gets approved in the system by planning and zoning first, engineering second, and then finally the permitting team. In this case, they submitted their permit directly to the permitting team. They skipped a zoning review. They skipped the engineering. They just went straight to the permitting office and turned in their permit. And then, you know, because of the lack of checks and balances within that process, the permitting team went ahead and issued a permit, not realizing that it hadn't gone through planning, not realizing that it hadn't had a zoning review. They just issued the permit because it met building code, right? And so here we are.
Anything else from Mr. Smith? Mr. Greenwald, would you like to approach the podium, please, and give your name and address?
Hi, Jacob Greenwald, 9019 East 100 North. I think the staff report speaks for itself, so in an effort to save all of us, I'll answer any questions you may have for me, but I don't have anything else to add.
Why do you need the building only 15 feet from the property line?
It's in line with the other detached garage right there, and it's just an unnecessary use to push it further in the yard, closer to my septic system, closer to everything else. It just moves it away. I guess for my intents and purposes, I don't really see the reason why it would need to be 40 feet in. It's just aesthetically unpleasing, and it's impairs on the use of the rest of my yard. I have kids that ride four-wheelers and stuff back there, and I just don't want to move something and create a loop around for dogs and stuff like that there unnecessarily.
Forgive me, Madam Chair, did we ask for public input? Was I dozing?
We have not yet asked
Okay.
for public input.
Okay, sorry.
We will,
All right.
as soon as he finishes.
I've been sitting up here too long, I'm afraid.
Thank you for reminding me.
What are you using this building for?
Just to store equipment, tractors, RV, boats,
No
fun
horse
stuff.
stalls?
No.
No livestock or anything like that? Strictly
Nothing,
a machinery shed, cold storage machinery?
Cold storage, yes.
Okay.
So the other building that's on that property is 15 feet from the,
Correct,
it's 15 feet from the property line?
correct.
Yeah.
And it's a soybean field right there on the other side. And it already has a stock fence from when I purchased, up, so it's not adding a new impediment on the other property owner. I mean, there's already a fence there, so there's already structure.
So at some point, a building was built there that was
But-
not 40 feet from the,
Relatively recently, the building was built, though, because this is down the street from my parents' farm. I drive past it all the time. Was there a request for the first building to be put 15 feet from the property line? Or is it just done because we're north of 32 and nobody knew?
So this was done under the previous owner, so to his credit.
And
this
I'm
was-
not
this was
faulting him at all.
This
I'm
was
just-
not done under his ownership, but the previous owner did apply for permits, and at that time, there was a determination by the previous director, previous department director, that side yard setback standards could be waived administratively rather than coming through BZA. Essentially, all the petitioner had to do was submit a letter to the director requesting this standard be waived, and that could be approved. And so, to answer your question directly, there was no variance granted for the 15 feet. That's because that standard was waived administratively. Also, the height, I don't think, at the time, I don't know how tall the existing one is, but there was no variances issued at all. It was just permitted and approved and built.
And this one is taller than your house?
I don't believe
or
the
it's
proposed, I
about-
don't believe it
No,
is.
it's,
No, okay.
it's within inches, but shorter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and, the offset, again, was approved through Whitestown. Didn't think anything more of it. Tens of thousands of dollars in material and diesel and equipment doing the site work for the barn. So moving it from 15 to 40 feet substantial. I'm basically going to redo a pad again. That's already been paid for.
And bonus to you, you live in Zionsville, not Whitestown.
We love Zionsville. We just moved to this property this year, so we were a little bit closer to the town before this. So, this is one of the goals, moving out to this acreage here, to be able to do something like this and keep all of our stuff in it.
If your structure were to meet the 40-foot setback, how far from the septic field would it be?
Not positive where that is. I don't even have a really good septic plan. I have an initial drawing, but if you're looking at the picture, you can kind of see the diagonal line that's coming there. I believe that right there about where the cursor just was off the back of the barn is where the end of the fingers are. They come around that side and push down that end of the field. So it would be pushing it very close to the fingers. I know that's not a technical term. I don't have the dimensions, but.
But not into or encroaching over the finger system?
I am not positive.
Okay.
I do not know.
I too have some ag land where I think I generically know where the septic field is, because whoever built it didn't have to file a plan.
Yeah, and, I've been on septics a long time. I don't want to mess with it, and I don't really want to find out if that's where it is.
that's a really good strategy to pursue.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the pad is built, and it's ready to proceed with building, and no septic tanks or fingers were hurt in the process.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this petition? No? Do we have anyone online who Nope. Okay, thoughts, questions for the petitioner?
I assume with this being next to a farm field, you haven't got any complaints from any neighbors or anything like that?
We ready to make a decision, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I think Whitestown has put Zionsville and this homeowner in a hard place, and I'm inclined to help out with the setback variance. As to the variance where the accessory structures exceed the area of the home, I find that a very odd thing to have on agricultural land. And so I find that a hardship on land that is zoned ag to have that restriction. So I gladly would support that.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a bad situation. Just a bad situation all around. You nailed it on the head. Whitestown's put you in a bad position. They put us in a bad position.
And I think well said, the aesthetically lining the buildings up, not getting into your septic field. I mean, those are all reasons we might have considered separately for allowing the setback variance.
So are we ready to make a motion, make a decision?
I'd be happy to scroll down to that part.
Okay.
I move that docket 2025-25 DSV Development Standards variance to reduce the west side yard setback requirement from 40 feet to 15 feet for property at 9019 East 100 North B, approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted finding of fact, substantial compliance with the submitted site plans, and evidence presented during the public hearing.
Mr. Hurst, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fedora. Is there further discussion? Mr. Dale, will you call the roll, please?
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Josh Martin.
Aye.
Amanda Miller.
Aye.
Kathy Postleway.
Aye.
Josh Fedor.
Aye.
The second?
I'll take another crack at it. I
Please
move
do.
that docket number 2025-25 DSV Development Standards variance be to allow accessory square footage to exceed the primary square footage for property at 9019 East 100 North B, approved as presented and described based on the findings in the staff report and staff recommendations, submitted finding of fact, substantial compliance with the submitted site plans, and evidence presented during the public hearing.
Mr. Hurst, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Dale?
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Josh Fedor.
Aye.
Josh Martin.
Aye.
Amanda Miller.
Aye.
Kathy Postleway.
Aye. Good luck with your project.
Thank
you.
Okay, building height's not necessary.
And
Sorry.
I'm really glad that we no longer are doing the verbatim minutes, because I am stumbling all over my tongue tonight.
Oh, good.
It's been a long week.
It's okay. I
We
did
good?
two time or two.
I just wanted to be clear that the request for height was not necessary.
That's correct, yeah. It was originally thought that there might be an issue with the height, but we've clarified that.
I actually have one
They
today.
went-
I'm
I
going
know,
to use yours. at a
We got the
project.
math, it's good.
Okay, great.
Is there any further business that needs to come before this board?
Thank you. Wait, one more, sorry.
So do we need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good.